All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks. My key games for today in the world of college football. I want to start off with one big one in the Big Ten, as you're going to have the sixth ranked Michigan Wolverines traveling to Happy Valley to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Now, this could be a very dangerous game for Michigan because winning at Happy Valley is never an easy chore for opponents. You look at running backs Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum. I think they're going to have a big impact in this game for Michigan. I think that Michigan needs to get that ground attack going early in order to try to dictate things and kind of keep this tough Penn State defense off balance. You look at what Michigan can do defensively with their pass rushers in Aiden Hutchinson and linebacker David Ajobo, and they're going to be important because they want to try to go out there and really neutralize this Penn State offense, which has struggled at times this season. But the thing is, if they can make Penn State quarterback Sean Clifford more of a runner than a passer and not allow him to get comfortable in that pocket, definitely advantage Michigan. This Wolverine defense will have their hands full with wide receiver Jahan Dotson, who is one of the more explosive players in the Big Ten Conference. But then you look at what Penn State has done defensively this year. You look at Ellis Brooks, who is one of the better defenders in the country. And as a team, Penn State has 10 interceptions. I think this is going to be a back and forth affair. It's going to be tough to pick against Penn State in regards to losing two consecutive home games. But the thing is, after the tough loss that Michigan had a couple of weeks ago against Michigan State, I know that they feel like they still have a shot at this thing, and they really do, not only to win the Big Ten, but also to get to the college football playoff. Thus, I'm going to take Michigan at on the road with the upset by the score of 24-23. Now, in the Big 12 conference, you're going to have the eighth ranked Sooners of Oklahoma traveling to Waco to take on the 13th ranked Baylor Bears. Two teams that definitely have their sights on reaching the Big 12 championship game. Baylor had just had that tough loss a couple of weeks ago, and they're looking to get back on track. But Oklahoma had their bye week last week, and that was more of an opportunity for the youngster at quarterback, Caleb Williams, to really get more of his footing under him. Williams is definitely going to rely on the talent around him. You think about that with at what Oklahoma has at the skill positions with Kennedy Brooks at running back, and then of course Marvin Mims at wide receivers. He can have a big time impact in this contest versus his Baylor defense. Quarterback Jerry Bohannon for Baylor is very intriguing because we've seen quarterbacks this season, have some good moments against this Oklahoma defense. Will Jerry Bohannon be another one of those guys? Running back Abram Smith could be a problem today for this Oklahoma defense, as can wide receiver Tyquan Thornton. This game is going to come down to who dictates the pace. I think it's going to be important for Oklahoma to get up by a couple of scores early in order to take the crowd out of this game. And on the flip side, I think it's going to be important for Baylor to score early to try to get this crowd into the game. So it's going to be interesting to see which style wins out. But nonetheless, I think Oklahoma will pull away late. And I'm going to take the Sooners on the road by the score of 45-30. Now, getting back to the Big Ten, and of course, the big one that a lot of people are talking about today, the 19th ranked Boilermakers, or should I say Spoilermakers, of Purdue traveling to Columbus to take on the fourth ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. And for Purdue, they have a reputation this year of knocking off some top teams and undefeated teams at that. They went to Iowa City earlier this year and knocked off the Hawkeyes, who were undefeated. And then, of course, last week at West Lafayette, they knocked off the previously undefeated Michigan State team. Now, granted, Ohio State is not undefeated, but they are still undefeated in the Big Ten, and they still have their sights set on reaching the college football playoff. Now, for Purdue to do it again, you look at quarterback Aiden O'Connell and wide receiver David Bell. they are definitely going to have a big time impact in this game. This Purdue defense already has 11 interceptions, with four of those coming from safety Cam Allen. So, will they be able to bait Ohio State quarterback CJ Stroud into making some mistakes? You look at it this season so far for the Buckeyes, and honestly, everything since the loss to Oregon is really coming into play for them. And honestly, everything with the exception of the loss to Oregon is things that I predicted back in August. It was going to be a struggle early on for this team as CJ Stroud got his footing at quarterback. But it's a situation where, as the season has progressed, Stroud has gotten better. And then there is so much talent around him, both on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. Running back Travion Henderson could have a big time impact today for Ohio State, but you look at what the Buckeyes put at the wide receiver position with Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and Jackson Smith and Jengba. It's going to be a lot of stress on this Purdue secondary to slow them down. Defensively, Ohio State can get after you as well. 33 team sacks as well as 11 team picks. So it's going to be important for Purdue to stay out of third and long. Not only to have to not deal with this pass rush, but also to try to keep this crowd out of this game. Purdue will be game. Ohio State will be ready. The final score that I'm giving you is not indicative of how close that the game will be because Ohio State will have to pull away late. But nonetheless, I am going to take Ohio State at home by the score of 33-20. Now, staying in the Big Ten, you're going to have Minnesota traveling to take on the 20th ranked Hawkeyes of Iowa with first place in the Big Ten West on the line. Running back Tyler Goodson for Iowa, I think, is really going to be the key to this game. I look at this Hawkeyes defense. They've been pretty stellar throughout the year, as evident by their 19 team interceptions. I think they dictate the pace in this contest. And because of that, I'm going to take the Hawkeyes at home by the score of 27-17. Now, moving on to Conference USA, you're going to have UAB traveling to take on Marshall in a potential Conference USA title game preview. Running back Dwayne McBride could have a big time impact in this contest for UAB as they look to go on the road and get the road win. But I look at what Marshall has on offense with quarterback Grant Wells, running back Rasheen Ali, and wide receiver Corey Gamage. 34 team sacks defensively by the Thundering Herd. And I think they're going to be too much, especially on offense today for UAB. Thus, I'm going to take Marshall at home by the score of 34-24. Now, in the Southeastern Conference, you're going to have the 14th ranked Texas A&M Aggies traveling to take on the 16th ranked Rebels of Ole Miss. Both of these teams still have an outside shot to win the SEC West. So that just gives you an idea of how important that this contest is. You look at the Aggies, they're bringing the 17th ranked defense in the nation to Oxford, 28 team sacks along with 10 interceptions. Quarterback Zach Calzada, what is Texas A&M going to get out of him in this game? That's going to be important. But I think the big thing on offense for A&M is going to be the ability of running back Isaiah Spiller. Will he be able to get going? Will he be able to keep moving those chains? Will he be able to help keep that Ole Miss offense on the sidelines, and more importantly, keep the crowd out of the game? Those are the big things. But when you think about the Rebels this year, it's the Matt Corral show at quarterback. What can't this kid do? And of course, Dontario Drummond at wide receiver could have a big time impact for Ole Miss. Defensively, the Rebels have 34 team sacks, with 10 and a half of those coming from Sam Williams up front. And I think this has the potential to be one of the better games today. It's going to be a back and forth affair, and whoever the last team that possesses the football will win. But I'm going to take Ole Miss at home by the score of 34-31, excuse me. Now, in the ACC, you're going to have the 16th ranked Wolfpack of North Carolina State traveling in state to take on the 12th ranked Wake Forest Demon Deacons, with first place in the Atlantic Division of the ACC on the line. Quarterback Devin Leary is having a good season for the Wolfpack, and this is a reason why this club has a legit chance to win the ACC. 10 interceptions for this NC State defense, and they want to try to go out there and try to do some of that same stuff against Wake Forest quarterback Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman had a good game last week in the loss to North Carolina, as did wide receiver Ja'Cory Roberson, as they could once again be an impact. But this defense for Wake Forest is definitely going to have to step up. Yes, they have the 27 team sacks on the year, but it's all about, putting pressure on the opposing quarterback more, but more importantly, getting off the field on third down and not allowing quarterbacks to get comfortable. Wake Forest did lose last week to North Carolina, but surprisingly, it was not a conference game. So the Demon Deacons know that everything is still in front of them in regards to winning the ACC. Going to be a good one, but I'm going to take Wake Forest at home by the score of 38-34. You're going to have the ninth ranked Fighting Irish of Notre Dame traveling to Charlottesville to take on the Virginia Cavaliers. The Irish are still holding hopes of crashing that college football playoff party. Obviously, they're going to need some help to move up, but nonetheless, the best thing that you can do if you're Notre Dame is keep winning football games. Jack Cohn, just like he was at Wisconsin, has been a solid game manager for Notre Dame at quarterback this year. But I think the keys in this game offensively for the Irish are going to be running back Kyron Williams and wide receiver Kevin Austin Jr. Defensively, Notre Dame can bring it. Isaiah Foskey, 9 team sacks. This guy is going to be a first round pick next spring in the NFL draft. And I also look at this defense overall that has 12 interceptions. That's going to be important because Virginia quarterback Brennan Armstrong loves to throw that football around. And if you can get him to make some mistakes, definitely advantage Notre Dame. Wide receiver Dontavian Wicks could have a big time impact in this contest for the Cavs, while linebacker Nick Johnson for Virginia already has 86 tackles on this season. Notre Dame is going to have to work for this one against a very tough Virginia team, but I think the Irish will escape by the score of 30-28. And finally, in the Mountain West Conference, you're going to have Nevada traveling to take on the 24th ranked Aztecs of San Diego State, with first place in the West Division of the Mountain West on the line. Quarterback Carson Strong and wide receiver Romeo Doubs have been as good as advertised this season for the Wolfpack. But then I like what this team is doing defensively under head coach Jay Norville. 33 team sacks, 9.5 of those coming from defensive tackle Tristan Nichols up front. So he really knows how to blow things up. And let's not forget the 11 interceptions that Nevada has created as well. But when you're talking about defense, San Diego State has one of the better defensive teams in the nation, as the Aztecs are currently ranked eighth in total defense coming into this weekend with 10 picks and 27 team sacks. I think field position is going to be important in this game, and also the turnover battle, as well as who can get into the red zone and get sixes as opposed to threes. I think Nevada has what it takes to go on the road and knock off the Aztecs. Thus, I'm going to take Nevada by the score of 23-17. So, folks, those are my picks for today in this important November Saturday in the world of college football. And as always, I want to take the time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.